You got a Bible? 2 Corinthians chapter 13. At the beginning of the year, I asked you, are you guys ready for a new season? And is it going to be a rerun or a new season? I want it to be a new season. In order for it to be a new season, there are things that you had to do, things that you needed to do to change. And so I have been stepping you step by step, little by little, through a process to try to put the things in you that you were going to need to manage this day, today. Because if I would have come here on the first day of the year and said, here's the message for that day, y'all would have run me out of the building. You'd have said, nah, we can't go there, because you didn't have enough in you. So I've tried to put all of those things in you. So if you're brand new today, you're going to be a little bit handicapped, but I still think you can learn from this. Go back and look at the messages. They're online, northside.church. They're online starting on January the 8th, and I'm not sure how many messages, 13 or so, that have led us to this point today. And today, the title of my message is A New Season, Living an Empowered Life. What I have tried to do from the very beginning is to get you from a place where you feel like somebody's running you to a place where you're like, you know what? It's a life that I've been given, and it's a life I get to live, and I'm in charge of my life. Even though there's other people around me that would love to be in charge of my life, there's a government that would like to be in charge of our life, there's a society, a culture that wants to be in charge of how you live and what you do. I want you to be in charge of your life. I don't want to be in charge of your life. I don't want to set the tone for your life. That's for you to do. And you have every right to do it. And I've tried to give you the tools so that you can. Today, I've come to the place where here's what I want you to do. I asked you last weekend to contemplate, hey, there's a certain amount of power that I'm born with. And when I was a little kid, before I knew there were such thing as bills and politics and parties and manipulation, just whenever you got up and it was like, hey, are we going out to play today, or am I going to get some ice cream or something like that? When life was good and life was fun and you didn't have all that pressure on you, you remember how fun life was and how awesome life was. And then you entered into the workaday world and you had these ideologies of what life was going to be like, what your first job was going to be like, what your bosses were going to be like. And then you found that guy or that gal or that company or that boss that sort of put you in your place. And they kind of took a little out of you. Or maybe you were getting ready to engage and you were going to start a business, or you were entering into a new career, and in your mind, you had these thoughts of what it was going to be, and you were so excited, and then somebody siphoned off that excitement real quick. Well, boy, that ain't how that works around here, and they just took it away from you, or you were really going forward in life and you didn't realize that it was causing someone else to feel threatened, even though you were not threatening them. People around you were feeling threatened, and people in power were feeling threatened. And so because of that, they stole your power and you handed it over to them. Or you started living life in a way that's not immoral, it's not illegal, it's not that way, but it didn't fit the pictures of somebody that you respected. Could be your parents or something like that, and you sort of got ostracized a little bit. Or something happened in your life. Life didn't turn out the way you wanted. Your marriage didn't turn out well. You ended up getting a divorce, and here you are in a church, and the church looks so bad on people that do that, and so then you felt like you couldn't go somewhere. You felt like you couldn't talk to somebody. The people that you had that were friends in this marriage, it's like, oh, well, I can't be friends with you now because I've moved to a different marriage, and so we can't do this, and so you gave away your power to the divorce or something like that. You had a legal situation that happened in your life. You went bankrupt or something, and you had to turn your car in and turn your house in, and somehow some of your friends were associated or connected to the financial situation, and somebody didn't get paid, and now you can't talk to them anymore, and now you can't do anything with them anymore. You were friends with somebody, and you did business with a friend, and you're like, I should have never done business with a friend, because we were friends until we did business, and then it kind of went sour, and when it went sour, now I can't be friends with that person, and they're not going to be friends with me, and you gave your power away. I asked you last week, I want you to think about who you gave your power to, what people, what places, what things did you give your power away to? Did you give your power away to your siblings because you felt like that they were better than you, or you were better than them, or you got treated differently? Did you give that away? Was there a boyfriend or a girlfriend that you thought was going to be a forever person, and they liked your best friend, which happens, quite often, and now, just you locked out a whole section of your life that now you can no longer be a part of that? I ask you to think about that. And then come back this week, and let me see if I could help you take it back. 2 Corinthians chapter 13 and verse 5, Paul, after speaking to a church for 2 entire books, boils it down to where it all really rests. Listen to what he says, verse 5. It's not on the screen. He said, examine yourselves as to whether you are in the faith. Test yourselves. Do you not know yourselves that Jesus Christ is in you unless you be qualified? So here's what Paul said. I have told you all of these things. And in telling you all of these things, you're not doing them. How do you even know that you have faith? When he says test, what does a test feel like? Tests are never fun. Tests are never fun. They're always hard. When you go to school and it's like, you can go through the regular days of school, and every day, even whenever you're learning and it's a hard lesson, it's not a big deal when you're learning, even if you don't understand. But when test day comes, oh, that's a big deal, right? You go into panic mode and you're sweating, and it's like, I don't test well, or whatever that's going to be, because nobody likes to be tested. But God says, hey, test yourself to see whether or not you are in the faith. And so as we come to this situation today, we're going to test you a little bit. I need you to know something. I got 2 metaphors that I want you to hear so that you kind of get in the space that I want you to be in. I want to set your mind in a certain direction and what I'm trying to do, okay? So here's a couple of ways that I want to share this. Have you ever seen a movie where there's a person locked in a jail cell, like down in a dungeon somewhere? It could be an old movie, and there's a person in a dungeon, they're in a jail cell, and there's like cells all over the place, and there's all these people locked up and stuff like that. And then somehow or another, whether they overpower the guard or somebody sneaks something in through a cake or whatever, they're able to get out of their cell. You ever notice what happens when one criminal gets out of the cell? What does he do? He goes and unlocks all the cells and lets everybody out. All the hardened criminals, it doesn't matter, they don't even care. He's like, I'm a prisoner and I'm glad to be free, and so I'm going to release everybody, and they let everybody go. Wouldn't it be awesome if we Christians would do that? But sometimes we get out and we carry the key with us and we don't let anybody else out. What I want to do is unlock every jail cell. I want to unlock every single one of you guys and let you out of your cell. I want you to be free no matter who you are. That's my goal, is to help you get free. On the other hand, here's another thought that I want you to have, and that is that most of us will do just about anything if it's easy, if it's not hard, and if it's not painful at all. I remember at the end of the year last year, I went and I had eye surgery. I was noticing that my eyelids were drooping, and they were drooping enough where it was like really it was blocking my vision. So I remember going to the doctor and I said, look, you can't really make me look any better. I mean, you're a plastic surgeon, but you ain't that good, okay? So that's not going to happen. So I don't need that. And I don't want to look different. I just want to be able to see. So can you fix these eyelids here? And like, yeah, we can fix anything you got enough money to pay for. I'm like, oh, okay, we'll be glad to do that. But I said, hey, can you do this without cutting me? He's like, no. I can't do that. Can you do this without any scars? Like, I don't want to go in there and look like Frankenstein because, I got to preach, and so I got to show up. And that's why I chose at the end of the year was a couple of weeks off. I could maybe not scare the life out of y'all. And I said, can you do it? He's like, no. I said, can I do this without you anesthetizing me because I get sick? He's like, no. Do you want it fixed or don't you? It's going to be a little bit painful. You're going to have to wear things over your eyes. You're going to put, ice over your eyes. And you have to lay down, and you have to take some time off. And you're just going to have to, because I can't do it that way. Morning and make you like me. No, I cannot. Can I do this morning without cutting you? No, I can't. Do you want to get fixed or not? Okay? If you don't want to get fixed, you can go now and I won't even be offended. Just leave your $4 out there, okay? But because that's not for me, that's for somebody else that would greatly appreciate it. So here's what I want to do. I told you last week I want to help you to overcome this. So as you consider this, I want you to really join me in this process. I promised you I'd help you take your power back. So there are 3 parts that I wanted to do to help you get here. And I'm going to kind of move. It's 11 o'clock. I can stay all day, but we'll try not to do that. We've got to start in the right place. We've got to focus on the right problem. And we have to embrace an empowering process. Those are the 3 points. Got to start you in the right spot. Got to focus on the actual problem, the real problem. We're not looking for symptoms, we're looking for the problem. And then if we find out what the problem is, then there's a process that you can go through that'll help you overcome this problem. And if you'll walk through the process and you'll constantly do the process, it will help you, okay? So let's start. Let's start in the right place. Let's just jump right in. Let's start in the right place this morning. Where do we start? If you're going to start in the right place, it always starts with you. It always starts with you. So if we're going to be empowered, here's what that means. When you're empowered, that means you get to do this. You don't have to wait on anybody. You don't have to ask anybody. You don't need permission from anybody. You don't need authority from anybody. You can just do it on your own. You can do it anytime. When you lose your power is when you have to step back and you have to wait for somebody to give you permission, or you have to wait for somebody to bring it up. You have to wait for somebody to do something. I want you to live a life that is empowered, so that you're the one in charge of your life. But to do that, you have to start with yourself. How do we do that? Let me give you 3 things that real quickly that you're going to have to do. Number 1, you must end all blame for any and everything that has robbed you of your power, and take responsibility for all aspects of your life. So here's what I mean. You can't blame. Blame is the thing that disempowers everybody. Here's what happens when you blame somebody for whatever's happened to you. I don't care if somebody was involved in what happened to you, if they were a party to what happened to you. If you blame them, you give them your power. So if you're wondering where I gave my power to, who are you blaming today? You have given them your power. Because here's what's going to have to happen. Whatever's happened in your life, if there's a participant that you're blaming somewhere that something happened in your life, here's what's going to happen. They are going to have to pause their life and say, wait a minute, you know what I just realized? Something happened in Pastor Kenny's life. He's blamed me for doing it. He's waiting on me to make this right so that he can get his life moving. So what I'm doing over here is I've got my life on hold, and I'm just waiting until this person has the aha moment in their life where they'll realize, you know what? Here's what I need to do. I need to put my life on hold. I need to shut down all the things about my life. I need to now focus my attentions wholly on Pastor Kenny and think about where his life is going, and I need to dedicate my existence to making his life better. So when is that going to happen? Never. That's never going to happen. So when do you think that's going to happen in your life? For the person that did something to you, the place that did something to you, the company, the entity, whatever it was that did it to you, when do you think that they're going to decide to not focus on themselves but focus on you? Is that ever going to happen? It's never going to happen. And the only way for you to get past that is you need to stop blaming them and now take responsibility for the part that you played that maybe involved these other people in life. Maybe you're not even at fault. It doesn't really make any difference. You've just got to accept responsibility for it, because when you do, you're taking back your power. You're taking back your ability to now start to navigate your own life again. I don't know if y'all know this or not, but when I get in a car, did you know the passenger seat has no ability to control the car? Duh. Then why do you guys sit in the passenger seat of your life and think somehow you have any influence in your life when the people you're blaming are in the driver's seat? and you don't like the way they're driving, when I'm riding down the road, now my wife never does this to me because she's accustomed to my driving. But there are some people that get like, I don't ride with them. I don't like the way they drive. Well, why don't you drive? I don't like to drive. Then quit complaining about how somebody else drives. If you don't like the way a person's driving your life, but you're sitting in the passenger seat and you won't get behind the wheel, stop fussing. At least you're moving. Take back responsibility. Number 2, I have scripture for all this. It's on the side, but I've got to get to another part, and it's taking me forever today. I'll give you the passage. Matthew chapter 7. Jesus said, why do you look in your speck in your brother's eye, but you don't consider the plank in your own eye? There's plenty of people who got planks in their eyes, but you're only supposed to be considering yours. That word's a big word, and it means to, calculate, ration, reason, study, investigate. We need to investigate what is our role that we've played in those kind of things. Number 2, you've got to embrace that life is God's gift to you, and it's your right to live it. This is really, really important. John 10:10 says this, that the thief came to accept, to steal, kill, and destroy, but Jesus came to give you life and to give it to you more abundantly. But I promise you, there's a bunch of you in here that don't feel you're deserving of life. Why aren't you doing this? Well, I don't really deserve it. I mean, my brother, he deserved it because he's done this. My mother deserved it. My dad deserved it. My nephew deserved it. My sister deserved it. But not me, because, and then you're going to have a story you're going to tell me about why you don't deserve something. Well, please understand that the Bible says that Jesus gave us the gift of life. You didn't deserve the gift. He just gave it to you. You didn't earn the gift. He gave it to you. And since he gave it to you, he gave you the right to live it. As a matter of fact, the Bible says to all of us that receive Jesus Christ, John 1:14, or John chapter 1, he says to all the people that he gave life to, he gave you the right to be called the children of God. And he gave you life. You have the right to live life. You need to embrace the fact that it's okay for you to live. Some of you don't feel like it's okay for you to live. Please don't take this wrong. I don't mean this harsh, but like I said, I can't do this easy because I need to deal with some of you that are in this situation. My father died in 2005. So this year it'll be 18 years since my dad died. I have lived every single day since the passing of my father. And the reason is that my dad told me one day, he said, I did not live so that on the day that I died, you would too. I lived to give you a leg up and to live beyond whatever I've ever lived by. And I want you to be able to do that. I want you to be able to do that. Please don't die when I die. Live. There are some of you that do not feel that you have the right to live because someone died. And that someone that's in heaven is going, oh, that's not why I lived. That's not why. I want you to know this. The reason that you have a right to live is because someone died. And that someone was Jesus. He died so that you could live. He died, Hebrews chapter 2, so that he could overcome the one who had the power over death to release those who through the fear of death were in bondage all of their life. You gave your power over to the death of somebody else. That doesn't mean you shouldn't grieve. That doesn't mean you shouldn't think about them. I miss my dad every day. I still miss him. Even today, I miss him today just as much as the day that he died. But I honor him by living. By living. Some of us are going, I don't mourn my dad's death. I celebrate the fact that my dad was saved 2 years before he died. If he'd have been in hell, that'd have been a different story. But he's not. He is in heaven. And because he is, I can face tomorrow. You heard the song? Because he is, because he lives, I can face tomorrow. I know where my daddy's at, and he wants me to live. He even told me this. He said, Kenny, I get credit for everything that you do, so you better keep going whenever I die, because I'm still collecting credit whenever you're gone. That's my dad. That's what my dad told me. He empowered me to live even whenever he was dying. So we have to understand that. You have a right to live. Number 3, you need to choose to do the work to take your power back from yourself. Let me just read this, Ephesians 4. Paul said this, I say therefore and testify in the Lord that you should no longer walk as the rest of the Gentiles walk in the futility of their mind. That you put off concerning the former conduct the old man which grows corrupt according to deceitful lusts. And be renewed in the spirit of your mind, and that you put on the new man, which God created according to God in true righteousness and holiness. In other words, it's your responsibility to do this. Nobody can do it for you. He's encouraging you to do this. Number 2, so we got to start in the right place, but number 2, we really need to focus on the right problem. And the problem is in our mind. I need you to accept this morning, and this is a little bit painful, but I need you to accept it. And that is that you've got to accept that your current level of thinking is at the root of all your limitations. Your current level of thinking is at the root of all of your limitations. It is not the people, the places, or the things that we talked about. It's your thinking about it. It's what's going on here. It's being a victim. It's being a bystander. Well, what can I do about it? There's nothing I can do about it. I'm just one person. What can I do about it? That's a bystander mentality. What can I do? There's nothing I can do. There's nothing I can say. There's nothing I can do. You're a bystander. That's because that's your mentality. It's being done to me. Well, everything happens to me. We have to understand what happened in my life. You're a victim. You're a victim. Or you could be a victor, and you could decide, you know what? I can do this. I have the right to do these things. Listen to what Paul said. Paul was struggling. This is 30 years after Paul has been saved. This is the Apostle Paul. This is the dude that went to heaven. This is the guy that went up into heaven, saw into heaven, saw things in heaven he couldn't even talk about. God shipped him back down and told him, now you ain't done yet, and keep on going. So if there was a person, Paul had less faith than most of us, because faith that is seen is no longer faith. So when he saw it, it became fact, not faith. So in reality, Paul had less faith than most people. He had fact. This guy, here's what he says 30 years after he's been saved, writing to the Roman church. He says, man, my life is messed up. Here's how he starts this whole conversation. He says, what I do what I should not be doing, and I don't do what I should be doing, and I can't figure out why I do what I shouldn't do and why I don't do what I should. Why is that? And so he began a search in his heart. And as he looked around his heart, here's what his conclusion was. He said, the truth is, I was looking at the law of God, I was looking at the law of man, I was looking at all the things that are out there, the Bible, the 10 Commandments, and I've discovered that I delight in the law of God according to my inward man. But I discovered something. Here's what he discovered. I see another law in my members warring against the law of my mind. And it is bringing me into captivity to the law of sin, which is in my members. In other words, here's what he said. He said, you know what? It's not that what God said bothers me, because it doesn't. I really embrace what God said. I love the law of God. But there's something inside of me that has got me captive. And so it's not people, places, or things. It's my thinking. It's a law that is fixed within my thinking that has got me trapped. Now I want you to consider this. How many ways do you guys have to be fulfilled and happy in your life? And how many ways do you have to be unfulfilled and unhappy? If I were to ask the majority of you, hey, what would really make you happy? What do you want to do in life that would make you happy? Here's your answer. I'm not sure. That's your answer. I'm not sure. I don't know. What makes you unhappy? Well, this and 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 this. You guys have got 100,000 ways to be unhappy and no way to be happy. But your pursuit is happiness. You have no clue how to be happy. But you know what makes you unhappy. Oh, I was walking in church this morning. This morning, 8 o'clock service. This happened. I mean, it happened. I need to re-preach the 8 o'clock service because of this. I was almost attacked after 8 o'clock. Woosah, woosah. That make you unhappy? Couldn't hear the message? Because you know what makes you unhappy. You know what things you don't like. You talk about the things that you don't like. You talk about the things that mess you up. But you don't even know what you would enjoy. You don't know. You've got so many ways to be unhappy. It is that current level of thinking that is messing you up. And Paul says, man, there's a law inside of my head that is messing with me. I got a problem with my thoughts that constantly condemn me. I'm always condemned because my thoughts are condemned. Hey, man, you were singing this morning. That was awesome. I'm not really awesome. You didn't hear well. You were probably hearing Tyra, or certainly you heard Brandy, or you heard Julia. They're incredible, but I'm not really that good. Well, let me fix it. You stunk. You were horrible. Please don't ever get up there again. You feel better now? Did that help you any? Oh, you're looking good today. No, I'm sorry, you're fat. Does that make you feel better? What's going on? You know how to feel bad. You don't know how to feel good. It's a problem with your thoughts. Number two, you have a problem with your emotions. Listen to Paul wrote this in 2 Corinthians 6. He said this, he's been talking to these Corinthians and talking to these Corinthians and talking to these Corinthians and talking to them about what they had. In fact, here's what he wrote. He wrote this in 2 Corinthians chapter 5. He says, guys, I want you to understand something about what Jesus did. He is an incredible guy. I'm telling you, he did some amazing things. And one of the greatest things that he ever did was that he who knew no sin became sin for us, that we might become the righteousness of God in him. He did this for us. And therefore, anybody who is in Christ, let me tell you something about him. He is a new creation. Old things are passed away. Behold, all things have become new. Old things have passed away, all things have become new. Paul, that's one of Paul's things that he was just hollering out. Old things have passed away, behold, all things have become new. Like, well, no, not really, not really. What do you mean? What do you mean? Well, listen, Pastor, I've had a problem with alcohol, and I'm going to AA, and AA has told me what the truth is. What is the truth? Once an alcoholic, you're always an alcoholic. But wait a minute, Jesus said that when you know him, old things have passed away, behold, all things have become new. And whenever it said become new, you're a new creation. The word is katesis, and it doesn't mean something that's ever existed before. It means a whole brand new creation. That doesn't mean your thoughts have changed, because we have to renew our thoughts, and that's the work that we have to do. But he said, you're not that anymore. No, you don't understand. You don't understand. That's not what it is. I'm always going to be an alcoholic. I'm always an alcoholic. They told me I'm an alcoholic. I am an alcoholic. I'll always be an alcoholic, and that's just the way that it is. And here's Paul's response. Oh, Corinthians, we have spoken openly to you. Our heart is wide open. You are not restricted by us. You are restricted by your own affections. The word is splankna, and it speaks to the bowels. It means, you know what? It doesn't really matter what I say. It doesn't matter what I tell you. It doesn't matter how truthful it is. It doesn't matter what Bible it comes from. If you can't get past your emotions, you can't get past anything. And how you feel is really how you live your life, on the basis of how you feel. Let me tell you that there are three major enslaving emotions that we all deal with. And let me talk about them. Fear is the number one emotion, but it's sort of an emotion, but it's sort of not an emotion. Fear is a symbiotic kind of an emotion. It's a parasitic kind of an emotion. You'll never see fear by itself. There's always something associated with fear. If you see somebody that's afraid of something, here's what your question is going to always be. What scared you? What are you afraid of? So fear by itself isn't enough. I'm afraid. Why? Why are you afraid? I'm just afraid. Now, that's not good enough. You got to tell me why. Did somebody do something to you? Did you see something? Did something happen to you? Because fear is never, 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 never by itself, ever. So fear attaches itself and elevates. It's like a catalyst to an emotion, and it elevates it. So you could have a simple emotion, but when you attach fear to it, it just expands it to the nth degree. So what are the three emotions that we really struggle with? Number one is the fear of rejection, that is caused by a desire for acceptance. Almost all of us, if you want to talk about where did I give power away to, you've given power away to somebody because of your need to be accepted. and you're fighting being rejected. So the worthy thing that we're looking for is acceptance. That's a worthy thing, to be accepted. And you know what God said? Hey, I want y'all to know, every single one of you are accepted in Christ. You're all accepted. You don't have to question it. You've been accepted. But we don't accept that. We need to be accepted, so we're going to fight rejection. I wonder how many of you give your power away to somebody for the sheer sake of acceptance. Just acceptance. I never believed that I would ever see that. I actually never thought about that a male could believe they were a female, or a female could believe that they were a male. Given the biological examination of a body, how would that ever even be possible? I was underestimating the power of the emotion of rejection and acceptance. That a person will give away everything that they are, their total humanity, for acceptance. And it's always going to be easy acceptance because you don't have to be anybody, you don't have to do anything. You merely need to adhere to whatever the narrative is over here. And if you'll say, yes, we agree with that narrative, you're instantly accepted. If you ever disagree with the narrative, you're instantly rejected. And so why do people stay in there and can just confuse themselves and harm themselves? Because of the fear of rejection or the fear of not being accepted. That's a very powerful emotion. The second emotion is the fear of loneliness, which has a desire that is built from a desire for companionship. The Bible says it's not good for man to be alone. And so there's a difference between being alone and being lonely. Most of us wouldn't mind being alone from time to time. You want some alone time, but we don't want to be lonely. And I see this all the time in dating relationships and marital relationships when people end up with the wrong person, because I'm not sure that there is a chosen person for you, but there is a right person for you, and there are wrong people for you, and the majority of the people are wrong for you. You ought to find somebody that really lines up, and there's ways to figure that out. But oftentimes people will come together because they don't want to be lonely. Especially biologically, if you start getting older. And of course, the community's like, hey, you ever gonna get married? And then you get worried about that, and you're afraid that you're gonna be lonely for the rest of your life. And so, just whoever said yes is your standard for the date. Did they say yes? Then I'm a part of it. I'm there, right? And you see somebody's like, man, no, that's not the right person for you. Well, I don't think that anybody else will want me. The only reason that nobody wants you is because you think nobody wants you. You're jettisoning people away from you that might want you because you've decided, no, you wouldn't want to be with me. And you say it. No, you don't want me on your team. No, you don't really want to go out with me. No, you don't really want to know me. If you knew me, you wouldn't love me. You wouldn't like, so you don't really want to know me. So nobody knows you. Why doesn't anybody know you? Nobody wants to know me. No, that's not true. You don't want anybody to know you because you don't like you, and so you make sure everybody stays away because it's a creation of your own mind. Because we got a problem that we need to fix, and we can fix it today. We can fix it. So that fear of rejection and that fear of loneliness, but then there's the fear of failure caused by a desire for success. There are people that will sell their souls to be successful. There are those of us who will lie, cheat, steal, do whatever to be successful, because we need to let everybody know how much more of a success we are than they are. And so we got platforms for that. We got Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, whatever it happens to be. And we've got to put something out there that helps people to know that we're successful. And we got to have some kind of measure out there because we're afraid of failure. One of the real challenges of that is that the road to success is paved with failure. You can never be ultimately super successful unless you're an incredible failure. You just can't do it. You want to build strong muscles? You know how you build strong muscles? You press weights to failure. If you can, popped off 10 of those, no problem. Well, they're not going to grow. You got to go to failure. You got to go to failure. You always have, how do you find out how to do something? You find out how not to do it. You find out, what was it Edison said? I found 1,000 ways not to make a light bulb. I know that those 1,000 are not how you do it until I found the one that was. The only way to be successful is through failure. Our community has taught you that failure is a bad thing. Failure is so bad that we have to play sports with no scores. Because if there's a score, it might show that some team won and some team lost, and that might hurt your little feelings. You need your feelings hurt. You need your feelings hurt. You need to experience loss. You'll never feel the high of winning until you feel the pain of losing. You need that stuff. The community doesn't want to tell you that. And you're fighting against this. One of the things about emotion that you need to understand, and this is a very important piece of this puzzle, you need to hear me. What is an emotion? Let me tell you what an emotion is. I'm not like happy, sad. What is an emotion? Here's what an emotion is. It is a biochemical response to a thought. That's what an emotion is. A biochemical response to a thought. Here's what that means. I don't know if you know this, but if you could look in your brain doesn't just think. There are other things in the brain. There are some organs and some glands in the brain. That's a little drug factory in there. Your body, your physical body, operates on a few things. It operates mainly on two things: electricity and chemicals. So you have an electrical system. That's why when you go into the hospital, they do an EKG to check out to make sure your signals are going where they're supposed to, and they're electrical signals. But they also do blood work because they're trying to check out and see what kind of chemical stuff you got going on in your blood. If you understand the pharmaceutical community, they recognize that your physical body operates almost holistically on chemicals. So they can manufacture chemicals to make you feel different ways, change different things in your body. And so they give you pharmaceuticals to be able to do that. Well, your body manufactures all the chemicals that you need. And so if you need to run, your body will give you adrenaline, epinephrine, things like that. Your body will actually produce those things. When you have a feeling or an emotion that stems from a thought, it causes your body to release chemicals from your brain or manufacture them. And it happens, boom. There are 4 trillion cells in your body, and in less than a second, your body can manufacture the chemical and deliver it to every cell in your body in less than a second. It's incredible. It's incredible what can happen. When you experience a thought that fosters an emotion, it releases chemical that lasts, and you got to hear me, 60 to 90 seconds. Okay? It lasts 60 to 90 seconds before your body burns it up. And you feel it. That's why you feel your emotions, because you actually feel them. You ever had that pit in your stomach where you felt it? You felt it? Or you feel it in your hands? You feel your fist clenching up? You feel the pressure in your head? You feel it. It's because it's chemical, okay? And it happens for 60 to 90 seconds. Here's the truth that I need you to grab a hold of. No matter what's going on in your life, no matter what you're sensing or whatever you're feeling in your life, it will never last more than 60 to 90 seconds. Depression does not last longer than 90 seconds. I hope I got your attention. It does not last longer than 90 seconds. Now, well, I've been depressed for 5 years. You've been depressed for 5 years at 90 seconds at a time. Let me help you. I'm hungry. I'm hungry. I'm hungry, but I don't eat. My body says, you need to eat. No, I'm not going to eat. I'm on a diet. So I feel that sensation of hunger. I didn't eat. Hunger again. 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 How do I satiate hunger? Eat. See how simple that was? If you want to not be hungry, eat. That's how it works. Okay, so I've got an emotion. And emotions are those things that God built inside of us to either cause elation or warning, either one. And whenever there are certain things that come, like depression is an incredibly wonderful emotion. It's an incredibly wonderful emotion. I realize that doctors tell you how bad this is and how horrible it is, and you feel bad about it. I'm telling you, it's a majorly wonderful emotion, because depression tells you you're not doing something healthy. You're not doing something right, and there's a change that is needed. Apart from you knowing that, it's like you putting a piece of tape over the check engine light in your car, or over the oil light in your car. That oil light drives me crazy. And so you put a piece of tape over it. Well, what's going to happen? The engine's going to blow up. Well, God's got red lights in you called emotions to let you know what you're doing isn't working and you need to change it, right? So I'm depressed, but you don't fix it. So it puts the chemical out. I don't fix it, chemical. Don't fix it, chemical. Don't fix it, chemical. And guess what happens? You go to the doctor like, you're chemically imbalanced. Of course you are. Of course you are. Like, well, we'll give you some drugs to fix that. And hey, don't stop taking your drugs, okay? Don't go there. Okay, there's merit in all that kind of stuff. But I'm telling you, those drugs are a piece of tape over the oil light. There's a piece of tape over the oil light because there's a way that you get past this. And here's the thing about your body. In things like depression, anxiety, struggles, situations like that, it will never let the chemical lapse. So before the 90 seconds is over, it'll hit you again. And so you're depressed, you're anxious, you struggle, you're worried for 5 years at 90 seconds a pop. And it goes on forever and ever and ever. Now, the medical community won't tell you that because they make a lot of money on these drugs and they need you to stay sick so that they can stay wealthy. You might want to desire to go a different way. So you have to understand that you've got a thought problem which actually creates an emotional problem, and we've got to deal with both. So how do we do this? We follow an empowering process. Let me give you a 5-step process to help you to manage this and to chop it off at 90 seconds, okay? Now, this is the painful part of the message, but this is the part that you need to hear. This is the part that will help you. Let me give you 5 steps. Number 1, drop your story. You got to drop your story. I'm going to explain that. Let me read you a story. This is the first story in the Bible. Genesis chapter 3, Adam and Eve in the garden. They've eaten from the tree that they're not supposed to eat from. Now they're focusing on good and evil, right and wrong. They're already emaciated in death. And so God comes up, shows up. God's first engagement with them since they ate. And here's what happens. It says, they heard the sound of the Lord God walking in the garden in the cool of the day. And Adam and his wife hid themselves among the trees in the garden. And the Lord God called to Adam and he said to him, hey, where are you? And listen to what Adam said. Here comes the story. Listen to what he says. I heard your voice in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked and I hid. Is that true? No, that's not true. That's not true. Adam was naked from the day of his birth. From the day of his creation, he was naked. God saw Adam naked every time, and Adam was not unaware of his nakedness. Adam was just unashamed of his nakedness. He was not unaware. Do you think Adam looked down one day and was like, whoa, there's a hand. I didn't know I had a hand. Now, he was aware that he was naked. He was just never ashamed of it. It never crossed his mind that there would be shame in being naked. What was the truth? Ate from the tree. What was the story? I knew I was naked. To which God responds, well, who told you you were naked? Did you eat from the tree that I told you not to eat from? Here comes the second part of the story. You know that woman that you gave me? She's the one. She partook, and then she was holding me down, God, and she pulled my mouth open and then shoved it in. I was fighting her the whole way. You see that story? That woman that you gave me made me do that. You see that story? So what does God do? He turns and says, Eve, did you do that? Is that what happened? Is that what you did? Here comes the next part of the story. Oh, the serpent deceived me and I ate. Okay, let's pause right there for a moment. Let's really take a microscopic look at what Eve just said. This is God's first interaction with Adam and Eve since they sinned. Can I ask a question? What is deception? True deception is to do something that you don't know you're not supposed to do because someone deceived you into believing that you should be able to do it, so you're unaware. You don't know when you're deceived. If you know when you're deceived, by definition, you're not deceived. Did God tell Eve that Satan deceived her? No. God's just like, where y'all at? And Eve said, the serpent deceived me. How'd you know the serpent deceived you? There's only one way you could know the serpent deceived you, and that's that you weren't deceived. That you knew exactly what the law was. I told you not to eat from that. Matter of fact, you told him that you weren't supposed to eat from that, and then you ate it anyway, but you've got a story that you were deceived. You hear the story? Now let's talk about story for a moment, because boy, do we love story. And do churches love story? We want to hear everybody's story. Let me tell you what a story is. Let's talk about a story for just a moment. In order to do that, I need to give you a phrase that I hope you'll carry with you when you leave here today. And here's the phrase. An event is just an event. An event is just an event. That's what I want you to remember. An event is just an event. Now let me give you an event so that we can understand what that means. Here's an event that happens. We're all on a safari bus, and we're over in Kruger National Park, over in Africa, and we're going on a safari. While we're on safari, we see a mama lion, and she's getting ready to engage in a chase because there's a whole herd of zebras over here, and there's a pride of lions over here, and we see that the mama is looking at this little baby zebra that's kind of got pulled away from the pack a little bit, can't run as fast as the big ones, and a chase ensues, and the mama lion catches the zebra and kills the zebra, drags it back away. Okay? Help me. This was an event. What happened? Now, in order to know what happened, we have to boil this down to the most minimal amount of words that we can use. Okay? The most minimal amount of words that we can use. But before we do that, let's see if we can talk from the mom and papa zebra side or the zebra herd side. What happened over here? Well, we were out kind of minding our own business. We're out here trying to take care of our kids and mind our own business, get them some water and get them some food over here. And then, you know, the people out here in the park supposed to be watching over. They didn't do anything about this lion. This lion came and murdered my kid, and this whole thing went wrong. And nobody likes zebras anyway, and everybody picks on the zebras. And why they picking on the little baby zebra? Why didn't you pick on somebody your own size, you cowardly lion? Could have picked on me. If you're going to pick on somebody, don't pick on my kids. Pick on me. That's the story over here. Well, what's the story over here from the lion's side? We got to go back to the lion den. When they go back to the lion's den, and you see the little baby cub lions, and they're like, hey, thank you, Mama, for feeding us. We were hungry, and we wouldn't make it without you because we can't hunt yet. So thank you for being a good mama and feeding us. Whose story is right? Let's talk about the event, because an event is just an event. What actually happened? What actually happened? I'm going to boil it down to you to the least amount of words that I can possibly think of. A lion killed a zebra. That's what happened. An event is just an event. A story is an event that we decide to assign meaning to. Which meaning do you want to assign to this story, to this event? The mama lion is doing what mama lions do and feeding her cubs? Or did she murder a zebra? Depends on which side you're on. Depends on which side you're on. Now, I want you to go back into your life, and I want you to think about the situations that have occurred in your life. And ask yourself, what happened? What happened? And then, what meaning did you assign to that event? We talked about assigning meaning, right? What meaning did you assign to that event? Yesterday I was at Lowe's, and I was going to get some stuff, do some landscaping at my house. And whenever I went there, I was coming out the back side of the garden side of Lowe's, and this guy walked right past me, almost brushed my shoulder, walked right past me. I saw him walk past, and I recognized him. Now, from what I understand, the back of my head is a complete identification of who I am. That's what y'all tell me. Can't miss the back of my head, right, because I'm going bald. So this person walks past me, never says a word. I'm like, no siree. I'm the pastor of the church. You ain't going to diss me like that. That ain't happening. So I chased him down, hit him in the back of his shoulder. I said, I'm going to tell you something, buddy. You can walk past me like you want to ignore me if you want to, but you understand who I am. I'm the pastor, and if you do that again, you're fired. It was Rob Strickland. He's like, man, I was focused. I didn't even see you. Okay, let's boil that down to an event. What happened? A man walked past another man. That's what happened. That was the event. A man walked past another man. What's the story? Well, obviously Rob's got a problem with me because there's no way he didn't know who I was, and he went right on past me. We're supposed to be childhood friends and also colleagues in the ministry. He goes right on past me, doesn't even care what it is, doesn't care about my feelings, doesn't care what's going on, just let it happen. And I'm going to tell you right now, when I get back to work, I ain't going to say anything to him, but dadgummit, watch how I ignore him. You just watch whenever he comes in here, and let's see how he likes it to be ignored that way. What's your story? When you gave your power away, I promise you this. You didn't give your power away to an event. You gave it away to a story. And you created the story. Most of the participants in your story don't even know the story you're telling. In fact, if you were to talk to them, and they say, you know, Pastor, I was out here 20 years ago, and you preached a message, you said this, you were looking right at me, I know you were criticizing me, and I know that you know what's going on in my life, and I felt terrible ever since, and I haven't lived a life since then. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I don't know what you're talking about. Or you passed me a story, you didn't even say, I didn't see you. Yes, you did. Yes, you did. Look, if I'd have seen you, I'd have told you. What's your story? You got to drop your story, because your story is what's got you stuck. And by the way, if you don't think you have a story, just ask somebody around you what your story is, because everybody around you knows your story. And everybody around you is sick of your story. They are sick of your story. Did you hear what I said? I told you it's going to be painful. They are sick of your story. Everybody knows your story. Everybody knows that everybody's done you wrong. Everybody knows why you can't make it in the world. Everybody knows what all your challenges are. Can I tell you something? All of us got a story. Every one of us has got a reason why we can't make it, a reason why we're a failure, a reason why we're not accepted, a reason why we've been rejected, a reason why we're alone. We all got a story. Well, guess what? Nobody cares about your story. And your story is what is empowering you to stay defeated in your life. So until you drop that story, you're never going to get better. And I'll tell you what, if you don't have any stories to tell, you'll find there's a whole lot of people like to hang out with you. Now let me just say this. Let me say this. There's a difference between a testimony and a story. A testimony is whenever his story gets engaged in your story. That's a testimony. When you give a story, it's all about you and why you can't make it, okay? So let's make sure that we don't eliminate your story completely, but you need to get his story going on. Now, number two, you got to face your fear. I'm gonna go real fast here, because the first one is the big one. Drop your story. Number two, face your fear, which means, please understand this, 2 Timothy, God says he didn't give us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. So he's given us what we need. Now let me tell you what happens here. When it comes down to fear, we've got this methodology, avoidance and withdrawal. We don't like the feeling of fear, so we avoid it at all costs. We avoid going around somebody, the places we don't want to go. Oh my goodness, it's Easter, got to get around the family again. I don't want to go to Easter celebration. I hate my family, right? And you start stressing out about that kind of stuff, and here comes the dump, right? All that stuff comes because now you're stressed. It's not even Easter yet. You're not even at the thing yet, and you're already having anxiety and heart palpitations because of what you think is coming on. So I need you to face your fear. Face your fear. And here's what I want it to do. I need two things. I need you to face your fear, and I need you to feel it fully. Okay, that's 2 and 3. Face your fear, feel it fully. Face your fear, feel it fully. Here's what I mean. Remember what I told you? Hungry, didn't eat, hungry, didn't eat, hungry, didn't eat, hungry, didn't eat. And that hunger is going to stay there until you eat. Well, when you have fear, you don't overcome the fear until you face it. And you don't overcome the fear until you feel it. So you've got to face it and feel it. And you got to feel it fully. In other words, whenever this stuff comes up in your life where you've given power, I want you to feel every single ounce of it. The madder you are, the more jealous you are, the more anxious you are, the more depressed you are, the more, if it can go to its fullest measure, it's good. You need to feel every single ounce of it until you're shaken. You can feel it so much. Because you need your body dumping. It needs to be dumping that chemical, that you feel that and feel that. And I need it to go to the highest peak that it possibly can. Because when it gets to the highest peak that it is, that's the level of power you've given away. Which is the level of power you can take back. You don't even know what you've given away until you're welcoming it in and let yourself feel it. And I mean, I want you to feel anger so bad that it almost turns into rage because of the power that you've given away, because of whatever's happened. I need you to feel every ounce of it. And when it hits this pinnacle, when it gets to the peak, when it gets as high as it can go, number 4, I need you to call it what it is. I need you to express what it actually is. I need you to give a name to what actually happened. I need you to identify it. It's not the person, they're not here. It's not the place, I'm not there. It's not the thing, it's not around me. I'm just thinking it in my head right now. There was a time in my life where I was so jealous of Terry. Okay, did you hear the story? Did y'all hear that story? I was so jealous of Terry. Is that true? Is that true? Is that true? No, that's not true. That's a lie. That's my story. That's the way that it deflects it away from me. I wasn't jealous of Terry. I was insecure in Kenny. I was afraid Terry was going to run off with another guy, not because Terry's flirtatious and not because she would ever even think about doing that. I didn't think I was good enough. I didn't think that she would hang out for me. I felt like if a better looking guy, a nicer looking guy, a more wealthy guy, or something like that came by, she would, boom, she'd go right after him because I was projecting on her who I was. So it's not the person, it wasn't Terry. It wasn't the place, it wasn't Gibson's Discount where guys would come through the line. It wasn't that. It wasn't the thing. It wasn't that she said something to them, smiled at them, was nice to them, or gave them a hug that were friends. It wasn't any of that. What was it? It was a creation of my own mind. That's what it is. So when you're at the peak of all of that anger and all that frustration, all that anxiety, and you're feeling every ounce of it and burning up all that stuff's inside because you need to let it only happen about 90 seconds, call it what it is. It is a creation of my own mind, and because I created it, I can recreate it. I can recreate it. And lastly, I want you to reclaim it verbally. The Bible teaches me and you that life and death reside in the tongue. And that any of us can eat the fruit of it, whichever we want to do, whether it's going to be a saltwater well or a freshwater well, or whether it's going to be good or whether it's going to be bad, whether it's going to be empowering or whether it's going to be debilitating, that we have the ability to do that. So speaking into existence certain things. Now, I'm not talking about a chant or a mantra or anything like that, but I'm saying in the middle of all that's going on for what God gave us, that whenever I'm at the peak here and I'm like, that's a creation of my own mind, let me reclaim that power. That is not Terry being flirtatious. That is Kenny being insecure because Kenny hasn't been able to grasp the truth about what God said about him. I am fearfully and wonderfully made. I deserve life. I have the right to have life. I need to love those people. My wife loves me. This is a creation of my mind. I am creating my misery. I'm creating my environment. I'm creating everything around me. And because I am empowered to recreate. I can tear the canvas off and start all over again and paint a brand new picture. And that brand new picture says, I got an incredible wife. I love my family. I love this church. God told me I'm to love my enemies. You know what? For all those people that are out there in the world that I don't think like me, God says you're supposed to love them. I now have the right to love them. I have the right to give them what nobody else is going to give them. I have the right to affirm them in whatever that they want. I don't have to buy any of this nonsense. I have the right to call things out as they are and create it through my own words. But the first thing I got to do is drop my story. I'm sick of all the stories. You're sick of all the stories. Your friends are sick of your stories. They don't want to hear it. I'm only the one courageous enough to speak on the behalf of your friends. They're tired of your story. Okay? You don't have to agree with that, but believe me, it's the truth. And if you got a friend that's courageous enough and you ask them, hey, are you tired of my story? They'll be like, Yeah. Yeah. Why don't you create a new one? Because guess what? Old things have passed away. All things are becoming new. You're the author of your story. But do me a favor. Understand that an event is just an event. It's just an event. It's just an event. The master storytellers are the news media today. They will take an event and assign meaning to it, and you bought it. That's why you're full of anxiety. Ask the news media behind the scenes. They will tell you what's going on in the world. It is what I say it is. It's what the news media will tell you. It is what I say it is. Because there's nobody in the world in charge of their own life. You're in the passenger seat, and the leader of MSNBC, CNN, Fox News, or whatever is driving the car, and you're getting car sick, and you can't figure out why. Kick them out of the car, get back in the seat, drop your story, build you a new one. Understand that an event's just an event. Stuff just happens. It only becomes a story when you assign meaning. Stop assigning meaning and start walking in truth. You can take this back. You can go back to the brother that you think doesn't like you, the sister that doesn't like you, the mom that you think hates you, and you can walk into that and you're like, oh, that's right, feel it, feel it, feel it. Walk into it, feel it, feel it, feel it. Feel the nervousness when you walk up to your mom. Feel the nervousness when you walk up to your dad. Feel the anxiety whenever you walk into that person. Feel the struggle that you go, feel it, every bit of it. Let it overwhelm you. Let it come into your body. Let that stuff burn off. And when it burns off, if you'll feel it for 90 seconds, it'll go away. It'll go away. As it goes away, say, you know what? That's a figment of my imagination. That's a creation of my own mind. I get to recreate. I'm calling it what it is. I'm going to reclaim it with my own words. And we're going to start a new thing. Hey, Mom, you're right. You're right. I didn't treat you right. I didn't treat you right. I'm so sorry. I didn't treat you right. I've learned that now. Hey, I want us to have a brand new relationship. Can we start a brand new relationship today? No, I don't want one. Okay, whenever you do, let me know. Let me know. I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm good. But you got to feel it, man. You got to feel it. Stop avoiding it. You got to feel it. You got to burn it up. You got to think about that stuff. I hope that today when you leave here, that in some small thing, that you'll give it a shot. Give it a shot. See if it doesn't work. Because I'm telling you, who you're battling with is yourself. The people around you, they don't even know what you're talking about. You're going to go to somebody, I need you to forgive me. For what? For what I did to you 10 years ago. I don't remember, so you're forgiven. No, you need to remember it. No, they don't. You're going to figure out they had nothing to do with it. It was a creation of your own mind. Since you created it, you're empowered to fix it.